Hey people, Garen with Catholic Corner Youth here, and welcome to a new broadcast. Now, I've been getting some flack over my previous rebuttal where I take on YouTuber Cody Briscoe in his, basically ad hominem attack against the American Society of Tradition, Family, and Property, also known as TFP. Now, in my rebuttal, I go through his argument, point by point, to point out logical fallacies and biases. Now, only a few days ago, someone had posted a link in the comments, which was to a video by, I think the channel's called EssenceOfThought. I know I should have taken this down, silly me. But in any case, which was another attack against the TFP, but this time concerning transgenderism.
Isn't it rather telling how any scientific review of Christian propaganda is termed an attack? By declaring it so, you have labelled reality your enemy, something which I agree with openly, but imagine you would reject. However, that was the content of my video titled Refuting 10 Messed Up Arguments Against Transgender Rights, TFP, Student Action. Said video utilized so many references to human rights organizations and scientific peer-reviewed journal articles that they had to be housed on Google Documents due to character limitations in the video description. Now, references don't of course make me right alone, but they do show that I'm on the right track when it comes to discussing science, as it gives people the ability to check what I say. I did however notice that your video description housed no such references, nor did it host a link like mine to an external document housing said references. Therefore, I can only assume that you will supply full references on screen via the wonders of post-production as you attempt to tackle my science-based arguments, which were the core feature of my video.
And he left a challenge, try rebutting this. You can't. Yeah, watch me, bro. Here we go.
Actually, I believe I asked whether or not the Catholics in question were capable of accepting science and learning in the presence of fully referenced evidence. However, if you have conflicting evidence in the form of peer-reviewed journal articles and won't merely resort to reducing conversation to sophistry, then I'm all too happy to see what it is you have to offer.
Now, I'm going to handle this video a little differently than the last one. First off, trying to do this in one video would leave me with the full edited copy. It would take about an hour and a half. Minimum. And I just don't have that sort of time on me right now. So yeah, this isn't going to be a full-length video. And secondly, I could barely get 6 minutes into the video without wanting to pull my hair out. So I have to take this in short steps for my own sanity. So for this video, I'm going to split it up into segments, covering about 6 minutes of the video. Which brings me into today's 6 minutes, which was pretty much just one long ad hominem attack against the Family Research Council and the TFP. Now, for those of you who don't know what ad hominem means, it means you attack the arguer and not the argument.
Very good. But it also should be noted that an ad-hom is not merely any perceived attack or insult one may receive. It has to exist in a vacuum where no sufficient counter-argument has taken place. You not only have to demonstrate an insult, but an insult in place of an argument. To do this, you will have to either quote or display a portion of my video which meets these criteria. Failing to do so is a failure to supply evidence. You don't merely get to assert my actions and walk away. I require a demonstration on your part, otherwise this merely boils down to character assassination. I.e., you are fabricating fraudulent information about my person to instill distrust in my character, which, funnily enough, is in fact a form of ad-hom. But if you supply that evidence, we can review the case together and see whether your claims are accurate and if I should apologize to TFP, or if this is merely a fallacious argument designed to slander my name.
Now, The maker of this video, I presume he's also the narrator, uses ad hominem to damage the credibility of the Family Research Council and, by extension, the TFP. He says that the Family Research Council, they're just made up of Judeo-Christians who are trying to twist science to their own ends. And he just basically leaves it at that.
The American College of Pediatricians is a separate entity to the Family Research Council. Yet I can understand the mistake, since both organizations are ultimately Judeo-Christian hate organizations parading themselves about as scientific institutions. The founder of the ACP has gone on record declaring just that. But then again, you'll likely claim my source to be a secular conspiracy. Because nothing screams anti-Catholic like Catholic exchange. The fact is, this was not a controversial claim, since the founders have openly boasted about it on numerous occasions, so I didn't think to reference any specific piece mentioning it. The point you are leaving out, however, is the fact that the TFP presented them as an authority, even though they have no scientific basis to back their claims. TFP Student Action didn't reference a scientific peer-reviewed journal article. They quoted an opinion piece, and that was all. Therefore, all I could target was the asserted authority, which doesn't hold water. The sole reason the American College of Pediatricians exists is because its members reject the science when it comes to pediatrics, hence they left the professional American Academy of Pediatrics and created a similar name to give them a fake air of legitimacy. Authority was TFP's argument. Authority, ACP, lacked entirely. Therefore, I address the only argument they offered in full. Not to mention, you have completely ignored what followed this point. Not happy with pointing out how the TFP's proclaimed scientific authority existed solely on the basis of rejecting scientific evidence, I then went on to reference 13 separate human rights organizations and scientific peer-reviewed journal articles in the same segment. I repeat, not later in the video, not in another segment, but the same segment. In that segment I spoke for a total of 2 minutes, 2 seconds. The first 56 seconds was spent on the previous in highlighting the lack of scientific authority as well as basis surrounding the ACP. The further 1 minute, 6 seconds meanwhile was spent presenting evidence to counter what had been asserted without basis. And I did this on my own initiative because whilst it is true to say that which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed as such, when it comes to human well-being, I'd much rather go the extra mile and show people what the scientific and humanitarian consensus actually shows. And you know what? Why don't we play both the clip I was responding to as well as my response with on-screen timestamp so that people can see my so-called Ad-Hom according to you.
Number 2, it fuels child abuse. Transgenderism is especially harmful to children. According to the American College of Pediatricians, conditioning children into believing that a lifetime of chemical and surgical impersonation of the opposite sex is normal and healthful is child abuse. Endorsing gender discordance as normal via public education and legal policies will confuse children and parents, leading more children to present themselves to gender clinics, where they will be given puberty-blocking drugs. This in turn virtually ensures that they will choose a lifetime of carcinogenic and otherwise toxic cross-sex hormones and likely consider unnecessary surgical mutilation of their healthy body parts as young adults.
The American College of Pediatricians is a quasi-medical institution, much in the same way that the Institute for Creation Research is a quasi-science institution. The American College of Pediatricians is thought to have no more than 500 members who have abandoned the scientific consensus in attempts to preserve their own ideological perspective, i.e., they openly admit that their entire institution is designed to force Judeo-Christian values into science. Now compare that estimated 500 members that the American College of Pediatricians has to the 64,000 members the American Academy of Pediatrics has, and the picture becomes a little clearer. The American College of Pediatricians has no basis for the claims they make, and you have also failed to support said claims. Simply asserting what you would like to be true does not make it so. Meanwhile, the vast consensus across the actual field of psychology and pediatrics is that being trans is not an illness. It is not harmful to the child, and trans children should be supported in their identity. This can be seen in the fact that attempts at conversion therapy on trans individuals, just like with gay and bisexual individuals, ultimately leads to the destruction of the person. Your way is a human rights violation. Meanwhile, trans children who are supported in their identity by parents show the same levels of depression as the general cisgender population. That is compared to the general trans population, which has a 50% attempted suicide rate, which is much higher than the general population, demonstrating that family support is a major factor in the ills trans people face. A claim further supported by other studies which displayed that LGBT+ children supported in their identities had lower rates of depression, substance abuse, and in general were more stable. It is your bigotry that is abusive, not being transgender, and that is a demonstrable fact. So do tell me, how does that match an Ad-Hom in any way, shape or form, like you assert? Where did I fail to address not only their claim to authority, but their assertion? Also, why the notes if you're going to get the very basic facts of the case wrong?
And also, he kind of tells the audience, how can you trust people who believe in virgin births and talking snakes, etc.? And I'm thinking, really, dude?
Actually, I merely concluded that I wasn't going to be surprised that the TFP's knowledge of biology and science in general likely wasn't up to scratch for these reasons. It was never presented as an argument, as can be seen here. Also, it doesn't take a psychic to guess that your touch on biology would be out of whack. After all, you do believe in talking snakes, women made from ribs, and virgin births. You have no position to talk about biology or reality. It was merely a jab at the fact that the TFP love to throw around such words as science, reason, and biology to try and bolster their position through pure willpower rather than actual evidence. But I still addressed every point they made throughout the video, so why the complaint?
How about you actually go after the argument? You think the argument's flawed anyway. Show us where the argument is flawed. If you can find it. I really doubt you can. Try doing what I did. Bringing up an instance where the research was actually flawed. For reference, see my previous rebuttal, especially when I talk about Dr. Alfred Kingsley, I think his name is. I keep forgetting. But in any case, don't just dismiss our argument because of religious grounds.
Except they didn't present a study. They presented an opinion and asserted it as fact. I, meanwhile, referenced not only the national pediatric organizations of both the US and the UK, alongside multiple human rights organizations, but also numerous scientific peer-reviewed journal articles to stronghold my own position and not leave me out in the open for what you are effectively attempting to do here. You, meanwhile, have not referenced a single study in the description of your video or anywhere so far, and your apparent doing so in a video discussing a completely different topic is rather irrelevant. Don't presume to lecture me on something I have shown not only a strong ability in doing so in the very segment you are discussing, but also a strong desire in carrying out said referencing in all my work for the past couple of years. So how about you stop projecting your own inabilities and tackle one of the many articles referenced throughout my video? Because so far you're just repeating, this atheist made an Ad-Hom, he needs to address our arguments, when I can demonstrate using video evidence that I've done just that, and you have decided to actively lie to your viewers because there is no way that this could be an honest mistake, absolutely none whatsoever. You could not have cried about my criticism of how TFP attempted to utilize the American College of Pediatrics without also having seen the 13 references I make in the same segment. Therefore, this warping is deliberate and calculated. However, I think you severely miscalculated in forgetting the fact that I am able to play the segment you have decided to lie about.
I mean, saying that Christians can't be trusted to have scientific anything is actually kind of bigoted, considering it was a Catholic priest who became the father of modern genetics. Yes, I am talking about Father Gregor Mendel. And also, kind of bring in the infamous Galileo case, which he wasn't actually in trouble for proving the Earth went around the sun. He was in trouble because he was presenting theory as fact and slandering anyone who disagreed with him. But anyway, that's beside the point.
Actually, it is rather telling in how you don't understand that the scientific definition of theory does not match that of the colloquial definition. A scientific theory is a well-substantiated explanation of some aspect of the natural world, based on a body of facts that have been repeatedly confirmed through observation and experiment. So it's not something merely asserted, but demonstrated. The fact that you did not know this is very telling of your capacity to speak about the topic of science in general. However, I never asserted that someone who identifies as Catholic cannot be part of science. That would be woefully reductionist, not to mention completely ignorant of the human capacity to compartmentalize aspects of our life which would otherwise cause cognitive dissonance. I.e., they can carry out furthering science even though each single discovery seemingly invalidates the claims of the Bible because they were taught that religion is given special privileges when it comes to questions, or more correctly, in ignoring them. But that does not change the fact that not an ounce of that knowledge came from any of the countless passages found in your holy text. Nor does it change how they contradict what we actually see. As for me noting that you coming in with attempts to retrofit the natural world to the word of the Bible would end with disaster somehow being bigotry, I was dealing with people claiming that the scientifically supported course of action that will save lives is mystically child abuse for no other reason than it doesn't conform to the Bible. That was shown in the first clip I played earlier and can be seen throughout the video I responded to, so in perspective you would cry about getting mashed potato on your shoe as you squat on the table and shit on another's dinner.
So, in addition to doing an ad hominem attack against the Family Research Council and TFP by extension, he also takes phrases by members of the TFP, takes them completely out of context, and paints a whole different picture of the TFP. Come to think of it, that is ad hominem. What am I saying? Anyway.
Actually, no it's not, and that would simply be called warping the facts. However, I failed to see how I did so when I displayed 100% of the original video. If I was going to lie such as you, a fact about yourself, by the way, I demonstrated earlier with evidence, if I'd wanted to do this, I would have simply made assertions about what they had said, rather than showing what they had said. So nothing you have asserted so far stands up to scrutiny.
Yes, the narrator claims that members of TFP have said that transgender people are evil. Where? I mean, I've watched that video, I think, about 5 times. I've yet to see any point where they actually say that transgender people are evil.
But if I were to go to a campus with a banner saying God created them, male and female, and distribute flyers against the evils of transgenderism, the evils of transgenderism, evils of transgenderism, evils of transgenderism.
Now they say the ideology is evil, and the way that it is being forced on society is evil, kind of like Nazism, communism, and radical Islamic fundamentalism. It's the idea that's being presented as evil, not as the person.
But here is the fact. There is no transgender ideology. There are people who exist, who are trans. They're human and civil rights, and that's all there is. That is what TFP Student Action refers to as transgenderism in the leaflet they were handing out in the clip I just showed. The human and civil rights of trans people in accessing support. Attacking the rights of the person is attacking the person. It is innately violent towards the individual. The fact that you are now fabricating a mythical ideology to try and avoid that reality does not work any more now than it did when you first pretended that being gay was an ideology to defend your stripping away of their human and civil rights. Transgenderism either refers to a state or condition in which a person's identity does not conform unambiguously to conventional ideas of male or female gender as defined by the Oxford Living Dictionary, i.e. being trans, or it does not exist. Now, I've never liked the word transgenderism, but the usage is unambiguous. Since there is no transgender conspiracy, only trans people and their rights, it is those people TFP Student Action are calling evil for fighting for said rights. Your pretense otherwise does not change that.
And this actually comes out of the Catechism of the Catholic Church. We are told to discourage sin. We are told to discourage destructive acts. But we are also taught that every person is made in the image and likeness of God, and they should be loved and respected as such.
So that explains why you're attempting to strip away their human and civil rights, out of respect for the person. How could I fail to see the conclusion you've wrought from such ill-reasoned assertions? Again, you have just demonstrated how many Christians fail to grasp what I thought were seemingly simple notions such as love or respect. Abuse, as you are supporting, is neither.
To put it in the words of a very wise man, Venerable Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen, hate the sin. Yes, hate the sin. Love the sinner.
But here's the fact that was demonstrated in the segment you are discussing. The quote, sin is the person. Being trans is not detachable. You don't trans or act it, you either are trans or you are not trans. It's a quality, not a deed. As the references from the segment on reparative therapy showed, the only way to stop a trans person being trans is to kill them, or at the very least eat away at their life to leave only a withered husk of the human who was once alive. So you can't attack the sin without attacking the sinner because you've defined a person's existence as a sin. This is no different to the Mormons defining being an ethnic minority as a sin because it's the supposed mark of Cain. They believe said mark is curable. You believe being trans is curable. Science says you're both wrong, and ethics tells you to stop killing people.
So my overall thoughts, I know this is kind of short. I'm actually still debating whether I want to continue with this series because this just sounds like a waste of my time. I mean, the narrator does a pretty good job of dissuading me from watching the video any further if all it is just one large ad hominem attack. So please, someone give me something to work with here. Not just all these ad hominem accusations. Anyway, that's all I got for you for now, folks. Be sure to check out churchmilitant.com if you're Catholic. And if you're curious about Catholicism but not Catholic yourself, I recommend CatholicAnswers.com. They're pretty good. Shout out to a bit of Brit. She's actually, she is a pretty good YouTuber. And it is an interesting point of view because she doesn't buy this transgender ideology stuff. And she's not even religious. So yeah, shout out to her. And what else am I forgetting? Oh yeah, how can I forget this? Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and if you would, help me out, share this video, or make this video holy by sharing the hell out of it. That would be much appreciated. So I think I've covered all my bases. Abayo! God love you.
I will say this, the projection in your video is truly remarkable. I mean, the way you have spent an entire video lying about so-called ad hominem attacks that a quick review of my video will demonstrate are anything but, yet completely ignores the scientific evidence I supplied throughout my response, including in the segment being discussed, and yet you have the audacity to ask for more than a mere ad hominem. Now, I'm not one to typically get angry by such pettiness, but you have made this very personal. You have not only flipped off the science, but also my years of work in carefully referencing each video to make the information I base my claims on accessible to people of all backgrounds. I don't even use Harvard style, I use numeric to make it just that much easier. So if in future you mature and would like an actual honest discussion, know that each one of my videos from the last couple of years is fully referenced. You have no excuse in pretending that I lack some substance for my arguments, so why don't you quit whilst you're ahead and actually attempt to respond to said arguments? Either way, the next move is yours, and I highly suggest you take your time. There are a few things which I'd just like to add here at the end of this video. The first is a massive thank you to everyone who has ever donated to me via Patreon. Your fantastic support has given me the ability to keep this channel going, and I hope to continue producing content in the years to come. Secondly, I would like to thank anyone who has ever interacted with this channel. Your shares, likes and dislikes, as well as your comments of both approval and disapproval, have ensured constant feedback, allowing me to improve my work. Last of all, I would like to express my desire that you treat any of the people displayed throughout the video with respect. Whilst it is true that ideas do not demand respect, and there are many in fact which deserve reprehension, we must be careful on how we tackle said ideas in ensuring we are not simply targeting the person. In short, be the compassionate side of reason. So take care, and I'll see you next time.